You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show, the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers today, but we got, it's actually the third call from Omar from the last time we did the show. Omar, take it away.
I had to call back because I had to finish what I was saying and give me a top five that you don't want us to draft in the first round. Realistically, that we could. So don't just say something like a player that realistically we probably couldn't get in first and second round. And then it would be funny if we draft what that happens. I'm sorry. Just do it. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be funny. You'd be like, all right, I know I said I didn't want him, but this is the positive.
I know.
He tried to spin it. So I'm putting it. Secondly, I remember
pause the wrong one again. I that happens all the time, you know, and it's like, I said I didn't like him, and well, I don't know. It's not like I 100% come around. I don't know if I ever fully came around on like Quay Walker, but there definitely is. Part of the problem is my opinions are based on so little information. There's so many prospects, and you have no idea who we're going to pick. So you do a real quick glance, and it's like, I like him, I don't like him, I like him, he's okay, he's not, And then when you draft him, you do a deep dive. And of course, you're trying to find and of course, there's going to be good. Like a first-round pick you're not going to find good film on him and stuff. So, yeah, that's how it goes. That's why it sucks kind of going through and doing the don't like or whatever, but I'm trying to think right now, without looking any deeper, I don't, like I said before, and he's falling so far, I don't even know if this is still a first-round prospect, but Benjamin Morrison would have bothered me. Any offensive lineman would bother me. Shamar Stewart, I probably could get behind it, but it's so in the category of elite athlete that has never demonstrated that he's just a good football player. Michael Williams, I don't know if it would be my favorite. I've come around to Jahdae Barron. I mentioned before Jihad Campbell would be like, you've got to be kidding me on one side because he's a linebacker. But you could understand the benefit of it, but that would still be like, this is a joke. Mike Green, I could certainly come around to it, absolutely, because there are those moments that are like, this guy's definitely a freak, but there's also the things that make you nervous. Tight end would not be my favorite, but I could easily come around to that. That would not be hard to start daydreaming of, an elite tight end plus Tucker plus, whatever. Golden I came around to. He still, wouldn't be my favorite thing today, but if we do it, then, the daydreaming of how great it could be would start immediately. Any safety, Malachi Starks or something would be, again, it's not that even that it would be terrible, because you could look at it and say, man, Malachi next to Xavier McKinney and elite safety duo and all that, but just kind of a why? We have so many other things to do here. Kenneth Grant wasn't my favorite, but it's easy to like the guy. Marion Hampton, there's just no way. I'm not even going to entertain it. James Pierce could get behind. Harmon, I could get behind. Not my favorite, but I could get behind it. Ibuka and Burden, again, I've got some questions, and they've both fallen out of the first round at this point, but super surprising for Burden, because Burden was on a path to overtake Tetaroa McMillan and then just plummeted out of the first round. So I don't know what that roller coaster is all about, but I could get behind it, But I just feel like a lot of these corners, I don't know. Trey Amos, Azarie Thomas, Benjamin Morrison, the 330-pound defensive tackles that are littered in the second round. I'm not sure there's anyone I would just flat out hate, but there's a bunch of that could have been a lot better. The other positive is there's not anyone that I'm dying for. So I don't know that there's like the contrast between someone I hate and someone it's a smaller gap of they're all kind of okay.
Remember the Titans. So I had to regain my movie skills back because I couldn't say it then as soon as the phone hung up. I was like, I couldn't say that. Duh, I know that movie. Anyway, so speaking of movies, I'll give some recommendations on stuff that's out that you probably see. I think that's coming on Netflix or that might be leaving the movie theaters or in the movie theaters still. Recommendations that are good, not great. But The Monkey is a very dark comedy as far as horror. It could have been a great horror movie if it was serious. If it was more serious. But the fact that it's kind of like dumb,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of like, okay, they kind of make it into like to be funny. But it works for
Sure.
what it does. So I would say The Monkey. It's very, very graphic, gory. I didn't say graphic, very gory. But I mean, it's not a horrible movie. I just wish they kept it more serious tone. It would have been awesome. I recommend that.
It's funny because, I grew up in the 90s, go to the video store. I always got horror movies. So there were a lot of horror movies surrounding like dolls and stuff, you had Chucky, obviously, but there were a bunch of other ones that just, there were these dolls that would be rocking in the rocking chair or whatever kind of nonsense. So, you could do it with The Monkey as much as that's like, it's absurd. How could you make that serious? Like, I don't know, man. People did it all the time. Maybe it's because it was the 90s and it was stupid, but it's definitely doing. Even talk about stupid. And I don't know. Again, it was a long time ago, and I used to love these movies. I don't know if they're all this bad. I watched like 5 seconds of one, and it was the worst thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, I just need to stop watching this because I have such fond memories of these movies, and I don't want it to be tarnished now as an adult watching how stupid it is. But remember the Leprechaun series? I'm sure you've seen it, Omar, but I used to love those. But how stupid! Like it's a leprechaun, but it's like it's funny because it kind of takes the story of like the lore, and it's like, what if it was true? But also, what if they're evil little bastards? You know what I mean? Because you are trying to steal their gold. I'm just saying. It's I don't know if they're just going to take that rolling over.
Want something to watch with your wife or significant others, listeners? I'll say you can watch Companion. That was good. I would advise if you're watching with your significant other, fast forward like the first minute. It's just because she basically says what happens at the end, and I think the movie's better if you don't know what happens at the end. So if you like to watch it by yourself and then watch it with your significant other, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's like she says something. It's like the first 45 seconds, a minute of the movie. I would fast forward because it's better if you didn't know. But other than that, those are my two that I have for y'all. I can't think of any more right now, but if I do, I'll have to be called back. All right, go Pack, go.
Very weird. It's not working. Let me see. I typed in companion movie. Maybe it thought I meant something else. It's like, sorry, search engine's broken. Like, what? Companion movie, like movie companion. And they're like, whoa, buddy. Sorry, our search engines are down. I'm like, companion IMDb. How about that? Oh, yeah. Oh, never mind. We fixed it. Engineers got it up and running now. Oh, yeah. I remember seeing the ads for this companion. Okay. Fair enough. By the way, I still appreciate the Plex thing, dude. What did I watch yesterday? Crying Games, I think. There's a lot of sort of, very popular movies with big names that I've just never seen before, and you watch it, and it's like, holy crap, dude, there's so many big names in this movie, and it was pretty good. Classic lawyer movie. I realized that that's like a huge genre that's actually got quite a few good movies in it. Yep, there's the Child's Play. Yeah, Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky. Remember Bride of Chucky for sure. So you had all like the 90s, or like 88 was the first one, but the 90s ones where Chucky was a thing. And then later on, Bride of Chucky came out, and I've watched that several times because now it's like, people have cable more, and it's kind of on loop on like HBO, so I've watched that a bunch of times. Never seen Seed of Chucky, though. The thing I always disliked about, even as a kid, and I know they're horror movies and they're stupid and whatnot, but how, when you're holding them, can they overpower you? You know what I mean? Like, they can't generate force toward your face. They don't have the capacity to do that. What is this weird, like, gravitational pull where it's like, I can't hold him back. Like, he's getting heavier. Like, what is supposedly happening there? I don't understand. Maybe I'll never know.
Ryan, how the heck are you?
Oh, good.
So I actually have an actual question for you. Because, you are my source of info.
Sunshine?
Pretty much. I don't know if I ever told you how I found your podcast, but I remember when I lived in Wisconsin back in the 90s, don't you know?
Mm-hmm.
There was like a weekly thing that was printed, even in the off season. I think maybe during the season they might have done it more than once a week, but in the off season they did it once a week because there was no intranet. You couldn't go to the World Wide Web and just type in latest Packernet. I mean, maybe that's the problem with people nowadays is they have too much in front of them and they choose to become psychotic. Anyway, so I'll read that. I'll get it like Monday or whatever day it came out, and I would even like parse it. Okay, I'll read like this a few days, and I'll read this part. Because I don't just want to read it all in one day. Then I was bored. So it was like 2018-ish. And I remember thinking, I don't have any, I lived in California, I have no Packer content, what do I do? And my kids were like, hey, Boomer, why don't you listen to a podcast? I'm like, what's a podcast, So I just Googled podcasts and I found a few. I found like Packernet, Blue 58, the Wiener podcast. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. That's Burkowski.
Oh,
I don't listen to that fool no more. Anyways, and I've listened to a lot of others.
like, bro, keep that private.
I've kind of whittled it down to just you, pretty much. Which honestly is a testament to all you've done because you got Clayton and the Dodos, and they're like listening to my friends. They're a bunch of morons that say dumb things, but it's entertaining. It's good content. They walk that line of not being too inappropriate, but allowing a little couple things,
Yep.
The angry head, can't pop out all the time because you get canceled nowadays. So that's why I found you, and actually I think one of the first podcasts I listened to back in 2018 was, I believe it was after the Arizona Cardinals debacle.
Yeah.
When I think I don't know if it was the last game of the year, I can't remember that far, but even I was like, dude, get rid of this coach. Get rid of Rodgers. Let's just throw out everything and create a new, And then, that didn't happen. Oh my gosh, look at the time. I haven't even got to my dumb question.
Part 2.
So yeah, after the Cardinals game, I remember you had an epic eruption, and your little microphone, your voice was buzzing. You just. The angry came out, and it was worth it because it was time. We needed a change, and we got it. And, life's been pretty good. But, so that's how I found you. Thank you once again for your contributions to my happiness. And so here's my question. Let's say it's our pick. Boom, we're on the clock. And we could, I know there's some receivers. I like Higgins. I like Golden. There's a couple others I like. I was looking like the top 5 and then figuring, well, we can't get them, so who else do I like? And I think those guys might be around, whenever we're picking 20-something. But also, let's say there's some, I think here's, gosh, I'm rabbit boy. So, I think you can make the argument that even if we don't get a receiver, we pick a dude in the 7th round and he's on a practice squad and he doesn't do anything. I think the argument can be made that who we have, even without Christian, can work, obviously provided Love plays like a regular human, and not like, sketchy Love. Freaks out and throws off his back foot, and, unless he throws off his back foot and it makes it, then it's okay.
Right.
So yeah, if Love plays good, I think the accompaniment of receivers we have can work. I hope this Hardman guy can get in there and, get 500-600 yards and bust him every now and again. I do think they need to focus on Tucker Kraft more. Let's face it. It seems like the last 20 years, whoever's won the Super Bowl, except maybe the Eagles, because they're just a freak,
Mm-hmm.
has had good tight ends. Kelsey, they've won 2 or 3. Gronk, I mean, how many Super Bowls? I think it was the last one they won. It was a boring Super Bowl, and the one play was to Gronk, and he got him just far enough, So I think we need to focus on Tucker Kraft. So I also think you could maybe make the argument that our defensive line could take a step and be slightly better. They weren't horrible last year. They just didn't, get to the pass rusher too much. But they stopped the run. Which one do you want? So if we get to that point where there's a couple good receivers and a couple good defensive line people, edge, whatever, they're all the same. They do the same thing. How do you want? I like shiny things, I mean, yes, I've stated that I want large chunks of men on our both sides of our offensive defensive line.
Large.
Bang.
It's the end of his call. I don't know where you heard large chunks of men. I've never heard that term before. Maybe you heard it from the Wiener podcast, but or whatever podcast you listen to. But yeah, I don't know exactly. Let's see if part 3 we get to the we get to what we're trying to get to.
So I do want that, but like I said, I like shiny things. If there's like some dude that could be like a Jefferson,
yep.
Imagine if we get lucky and go. Well, let's say we get Golden and he becomes like Jefferson.
Yep.
That changes a lot of stuff, So I kind of want to go that route, but you tell me what you think. Also, because I think there are some positions where you could find really good depth at 3, 4, and 5, 5th rounds. I don't know if receiver is that, but I'm sure there's some dude who's really good that I've never heard of. I never heard of Watson. I never heard of Reed. So if that's the case, we're on the clock, and there's a couple good receivers and a couple good defensive linemen. How do you go? I want, like I said, like shiny things. I like offense, and if we get a receiver and he's good, that's awesome. I'll love whoever we get. So, but you let me know how you feel or how you would like it to go, and I have no more rabbit trails to get involved with, except this one time I was in Vietnam.
How would I like it to go? I'm really, these things evolve over time. I'm really starting to settle into wide receiver. And I know that is the least original position, but I have to assume if you've been listening to this show for a while, you would know that that's not just a shiny thing. You mentioned, if Jordan plays really well, we'll be okay, and that's true. It's kind of like if you have an elite number 1 edge rusher, you don't necessarily need more than one. That's true. But at the same time, I'm certainly not going to be upset about getting a premier guy, and even if Jordan is playing at a high level, it's going to be significantly better to have a dominant receiver to pair him with than not. I think the only thing that makes me nervous is I don't know who it is. Because I'm assuming there's probably going to be, I don't know about a Jefferson, but there's usually good receivers in the draft. And there's actually usually some real good receivers, at least a real good receiver in the draft. But it's not all of them. And I don't know if it's Golden, or if it's McMillan, or if it's Ibuka, or if it's Burden, or if it's Higgins. And, and maybe it just is a bad receiver group, and there isn't a top guy, and there's just some decent guys. I guess it's a weird thing to worry about, kind of, but at the same time, it is kind of a worry, because I think we could, I don't freaking know. I don't know, man. I guess that's just kind of where I'm at. I mean, if it's the ability to dream, I'm just kind of feeling, I think, what a lot of Packer fans have been feeling for the better part of a decade, which is just this desire to be able to dream of this elite receiver that's going to be able to help us just dominate and win and all these things. I'm getting that. I'm getting the fever a little bit. The problem is I don't know who it is. And maybe that's a good thing, because we usually think we know who it is, and that may or may not be the case. At least we can be honest this year and just go, I don't know. We have our preferences. It seems like Higgins is everybody's favorite, at least among Packer fans. I don't know if that's everyone else. I don't think it is. But Packer fans, for whatever reason, are super all in on Higgins as being the guy. I'm guessing just because he's really big and has a really nice, solid drop rate or something. But I don't know. I would guess, if I had to guess, it's probably not Higgins. I would bet against him. But it could be. I don't. What the heck do I know? Could be Higgins. I think that's been bugging me for a while, actually, as far as who is the guy, if there is one. I'm, obviously the easy answer is Teteroa McMillan, who probably isn't even going to be available anyways. But that's not even a sure thing either. I mean, he's real smooth, and I like a lot of things about McMillan, but sometimes you go watch Emeka Ibuka like I did yesterday, and you look at it and you go, one of the things I actually did. So I'm closing in. I'm kind of going back through. I need to start doing other positions and not just hone in on like wide receiver all the time. But who was it that I looked at? I think it was Weiss. I looked at Weiss. So I went and got a brand new list of receivers. I don't even know how many. Oh, there are. There's 40 of them. Top 300. And I went and looked at Theo Weiss, and I'm like, I like this guy. I freaking like. He's bottom of my list at 294, out of Missouri, but I really like him. I think he's solid. Is he like a premier, this, that, or the other? But just for contrast, I'm like, all right, I just did Theo Weiss. I'm gonna go turn on Ibuka now. And I turned it on, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's different. It just hits a little different. Never mind. Downgrade Weiss. And I definitely get it. And then I turn on McMillan, and even that's like a big bump up. But still, you watch Ibuka, and it's like, dude, this guy's... And it's going to hurt that much more. Like, if we draft Matthew Golden, and Golden's just kind of... He's okay. He's got speed, but he can't really utilize it as much because he doesn't really play at 4.29, and he's not big enough to really utilize it all the way, and he's not great off a press, and he's got good hands, not great hands, and he doesn't really win the 50-50 ball, and you look at it, it's like, this was obviously not the guy, and Emeka Ibuka pops off, and it's like, how could you get that wrong? After Jackson Smith and Jigba and all these wide receivers out of Ohio State pop off, how could you not just do the obvious thing? He wasn't even supposed to be available. He was right there, and you didn't take him. Or, it is Golden, and it's like, sure, the one time you don't take the big fast guy and all this stuff, and you take this little slot guy and Ibuka, you know what I mean? Like, it just, I just feel like it's a freaking minefield, and somewhere in here is going to be a good receiver, and it's going to feel obvious when they go off, but I don't know who it's going to be. But that is what I want. Not like desperate. I would be over the moon excited for, again, any great player. If you could just, and this is why the whole thing is kind of stupid, because it's a question of whether they're great or not that matters. Great or good or mediocre or bad or terrible or whatever. That's really the most important question. Like, would you be pissed if we took a tight end? Yeah, I would. What if I told you he was a great tight end? Would you be pissed? No. I wouldn't be pissed if it was a great running back. I mean, maybe still look back a little skeptical, but no, I wouldn't be upset. But yeah, defensive tackle, edge, wide receiver, corner, any of those would be good. But I'm just settling into... I'm setting myself up for disappointment. That's all I'm doing. That's what you do every year, right? You set yourself up and go, okay, you know what? I'm ready. Let's do it, boys. And they're like, okay, no, we're not going to do that. All right, let's take a break. We got Uncle Rico on the other side.
Yo, Ryan, it's your uncle, Rico.
Yo.
I just heard you announce on one of your podcasts here that you are attending the draft with the family.
Correct.
I think that's great and exciting.
Thank you.
And I think it'll be cool for you to let us know how it was. Give us your thoughts when you get back.
Yeah.
As far as all the I know you said you're not staying till the pick, and that's cool as long as you're there and you can tell us, like, this happened, that happened, this is going on, that's going on. I see some drunken morons.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I got harassed by a Bears fan.
By the way, that's another reason for me to not stay for the picks. I got a bunch of little kids who are already going to be way too tired by the time the picks happen, number one. And then on top of that, it's just going to be a bunch of drunk people. And there was a time in college when I was all about getting into fights. Not that I really did, but just like I was Mr. Tough Guy. I don't want to go around and push my weight around, blah, 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 blah. I don't want any of that. I don't care. I don't need to prove nothing to anybody. You know what I mean? And the last thing I want is for some drunk guy to do something to my wife or children because I will have no choice but to absolutely do something about it. And I don't want to, I don't want to do that. So, yeah, let's just not. Because that's the thing. It's going to be different than in college. You get that like rush of testosterone, and it's like, and you can't super control it. This is going to be like, I have this obligation, and the obligation says I have to turn around and immediately hit you in the face as hard as I possibly can, and I don't want to do that. But it's my responsibility to do it. Fine, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do it. Not interesting to me. I'm sorry.
Shit, stuff like that. All right. Cool, Rye. Cool. I'm excited for you.
Thanks.
Let us know. Rico out.
Rico part 2.
Yo, Ryan, it's your uncle, Rico.
What's up?
Hey, you're just doing a mock on maybe yesterday or the day before's podcast. I'm not sure. And you said the Steelers only going into the draft only had one quarterback on their roster, and it's some guy I never heard of. But I believe they have Mason Rudolph, which I don't know what you think of that guy, but it's somebody other than who you mentioned. So I don't know if he's a capable. I mean, I think he's a capable starter. I don't know if he's gonna get you anywhere, but I don't know a lot about the guy. But I know they let him go and brought him back. Pretty sure. All right, Mason Rudolph. Give us your thoughts. Thanks, Ryan.
What are my thoughts on Mason Rudolph? I don't know. He's not good. I know that much. That's about it. It's about all I got on Mason Rudolph. Hope it helps. Thanks for your call.
Yo, Ryan, it's your uncle, Rico. Hey, I'm pretty caught up, pretty close, and I'm just listening to you go over a list of names that are moving up or down. So far, I'm down. That been dropping in the top 200, whatever, on the consensus board. And then, so obviously there's going to be risers you're going to be talking about. So I was curious if you had any information on that. I know it's probably a lot of work, but maybe it's something you're interested in, is like last year or the year before possibly, or whatever, if it's easily accessible, these players that are rising in the month leading up to the draft and the players that are falling in the month leading up to the draft. If there's any kind of info, like how they're panning out, the top 200 in January and the top 200 in draft day or something like that. If the ones that fell were the players they thought they were, and the ones that rose were the players they hoped they would be, type of thing. You know what I mean? Which list was more accurate in their not when they got drafted, of course, but in their actual performance? So I don't know. Maybe you got to go back 3 years to figure that out, or a while. I don't know. Just maybe something to think about. All right, Rye. Have a great week. It's Monday for me. Rico out.
Yeah, we'll have to see how deep we get into the dearth of the off season before we get to that particular project. But the only thing I could think to try to comment on it without actually doing the project would be that if I had to guess, I would say that the I guess the newer list, I guess you'd call it, as far as, like before or after they shot up, would end up being better. Only because I think we're kind of, like, when we say that they're rising, it's not necessarily that they're rising as much as I think we're kind of learning the reality of their position. In other words, they were always kind of that good. We just kind of underrated them to begin with. So then what we're talking about is sort of the correlation between where they actually get drafted and how good they are. And I think that we already know there's a huge correlation there as far as the draft position. If you look at like stats or which stats correlate the most to success in the NFL, the number one thing by a wide margin is where they end up getting drafted. So that's going to end up being probably the most valuable tool as opposed to where we thought they would get drafted prior to the 2 weeks beforehand, when we started hearing rumors that teams actually really liked them, and then they shot up the boards. And then, so I would assume the teams that shot up the boards ended up being better than the players that fell. Because ultimately, the players that were drafted sooner, and the players that were drafted later, and there's a high correlation between, not always, sometimes you got, I don't exactly remember how it went, but Cooper DeJean and Brian Branch fell, and they ended up being more of the value that they were when, the people that thought they were really good first-round picks. But that's going to be pretty anecdotal. There's obviously going to be examples of other things in other directions. That would just be my guess. I don't really know. And yeah, it would be a massive amount of work, and I don't know. I don't know that the conclusions that we could draw from that would equal the amount of work from my perspective. But if we get, like I said, if we get to the point where it's like, I have no idea what to do, I'll be like, oh yeah, Uncle Rico gave me that assignment. I'll go do that. All right, we only got 4 calls left, so why don't we take a break right here? We'll come back. We got Drew from Green Bay.
Hey Ryan, it's Drew from Green Bay.
Yep.
And since you're coming from the draft, if you still do have time to design any clothes and allow us to order it, it's probably not enough time, but
there's plenty.
I would love a Gootlicker t-shirt or hat.
Okay.
That's probably would be highest on my list.
That's not a bad idea.
And I think it's just a cool name, first of all.
It is.
Yeah, and it's so you.
Yep.
And there's also enough people against Goody, weirdly, that it's nice to support Brian Gutekunst as well. So I don't know if you're going to design that if it could even be made and shipped out in time, but even if it couldn't, I'd still buy a t-shirt and or hat. So, all right, have a good one. Bye.
Start on that right now. So the vision that I have is sort of like the Rolling Stone thing, which is sort of like if you go on X, you can see my account. I have a Gootlicker thing. That's kind of what it is. But AI has improved, so I want to kind of revamp that and see if we can improve that. But I think that's a good idea, and it would be a very standout thing. It'd be cool to support the GM during draft time. That would kind of make sense. Obviously, you don't have to if you don't like Brian Gutekunst. We can come up with something else. But I think by today, there will be Gootlicker merchandise for anybody interested. But you got to be following me somewhere to find it. So either be in the Facebook group. Following me on X is the best way to do it. I'll try to put it anywhere you can find me, but if that doesn't work, then I don't know how to get it to you. So try to make sure that you are following me somewhere, and we'll go ahead and make that available. By the way, I'll just put a link out there, but there is merch currently available if you just wanted to get some Packernet stuff, like a shirt that says Packernet. That is already and has been for a long time available. All right, that's already in the works. Thank you for that recommendation. That's a brilliant idea. Craig, what's going on?
Hey, Ryan, it's Craig from Indiana. I've been enjoying all the scouting reports that you've been given on the different players for the draft.
Good.
And it occurred to me, I wondered I'm guessing those players probably listen to those, and that would be kind of rough, right? Especially the negative ones.
Right.
And so I thought, I'm going to do a little scouting report on Ryan Schlipp and the Packernet podcast. So as I looked around the scouts, I got some positive things, right? Effectively uses data to support positions. I mean, that shows he's working on his craft, even when not on his recording day, which I think is good. Offers an interactive podcast with listeners called Packernet After Dark. And I think that shows, it shows some good teamwork, right? Also, the same scout said shows patience with some of the more challenging callers. And and your willingness to listen and whether you disagree or agree with them or might not even understand what they're saying, I think that's a positive trait. Another positive from a scout was quick-witted, so I think that shows agility. Appropriately uses creative analogies to help audiences understand his point or idea, so he considers his listeners when creating his game plan, which is great. Leverages AI technology, especially creative when creating songs. I think this demonstrates a willingness to go above and beyond his normal job responsibilities. Another scout said it reinforces constantly that the Bears still suck. And to me, that shows, he's in touch with reality and has his priorities in order. Another scout said, in addition to football knowledge, seems to know a thing or two about food, movies, and music. So not a one-trick pony. That's a good thing. Flexible. And also, the last scout said, known for going off on rants rather than that are rather entertaining. Goes off on rants that are rather entertaining. So it shows you got some passion. On the negative front, commonly forgets or grossly mispronounces names, might reflect the poor memory skills or lack of empathy. I don't know. Background noises such as sliding chairs from the room above, children interrupting, and crickets chirping have been known to happen. Questions maybe his leadership in the household could be an issue. Can go off on rants, some planned, some unplanned. Well, that's weird. The other scouts said that was a strength, but that happens sometimes. There's off-air allegations of child labor, and those violations appear to be true based on live by his son. Well, that's a deal breaker. Can waffle on commitments such as the Packer draft, shows integrity, and it's all about integrity. And the last negative from scout number 4 was the red flag, doesn't eat enough vegetables. And that might be the cause of his memory lapses. So, enjoy that. Take care. I'll be at the draft on day 2. Bye.
Man, everyone's going day 2. Very creative, by the way. Appreciate that. Day 2's the day to go, man. That's when everybody's going. But pretty locked in on this day 1. I wish you guys would just change your mind because I'm feeling real good about it. Maybe, probably can't reconsider, but maybe reconsider. I'm just saying. Garrett.
Cats in the cradle and Packernet. Ryan's taking his family to the draft. When are we gonna go, son? I don't know when. We'll have a good time then. I knew it, Ryan. I knew you would cave.
That song did it, man.
I just knew it.
You got me.
I just knew it. To quote Jim Carrey, so you're saying there's a chance. Well, there was. I'm glad you're going, dude. You won't regret it. And since you're going to be there, I got a favor to ask. I wear a size extra large, so if you could get me one Green Bay Draft Day T-shirt, bumper sticker, maybe a Tevis mug with the draft logo on it, and if a football isn't too expensive, throw that in too.
Sure, I'll get you all those things.
It.
Yep.
Thanks. I'm out.
That's what I'll do. So one of the design concepts that we got already here, it says Goot Liquor Premium Draft Selections, and then there's like a bottle of booze beneath it with the Packers logo, which I'll have to take off. You can't use that, I don't think. And then it says Distilled in Green Bay, NFL Draft 2025. That's a pretty good one. This one is In Goot We Trust. It's got a map, which isn't really working because, I guess it kind of works. It says Lambeau. It's like a map of Wisconsin inside of Wisconsin, which is kind of awkward, but whatever. It's got the podium next to it, and then it says Draft 2025 Green Bay, Goot Liquor Nation, estimated 2018, or established 2018, which is actually, I think, about when I started the podcast. I don't know if it did that on purpose or if that was an accident. Let's see. This one says Goot Liquor, Green Bay Draft, April 2025. And then it's just, the picture's kind of stupid. That one doesn't work. The middle one's pretty good. First one's good, but it's just, all of them need a little bit of tweaks, and I got to remember to tell it you can't be using Packers logos or the NFL logo. But we'll get there, man. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. But yeah, Garrett, don't worry about it. I'll go in there, spend about $300-400 on you, buddy. That's what I'm going to do.
Yo, Ryan, it's your uncle, Rico.
Yo.
Omar, the firefighter, just called in, and he reminded me, although Omar, come on, draft day is fun. I mean, yeah, I'm with you. It's not the be-all, end-all of movies. It's quite unrealistic in the drafting process or whatever, the trading. Yeah, kind of unrealistic, but at the same time, it's amusing. But anyways, that's not what I called. Omar mentioned the Replacements. Yeah, Ryan, have you seen the Replacements?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't say anything else about that.
Yep.
The Replacements is a fun movie as well.
It's
I enjoy
a funny
it.
one.
It's
Yep.
New Reeves in it, and Gene Hackman, and it's got a guy with elephant cum on his hands or something. I don't know. He's whitey.
Yeah.
And okay, you gotta watch it. The Replacements. All right. Go Pack Go. Rico out.
I have seen it, and of all the comedy ones, that's probably the best one for sure. The Adam Sandler one is not super my favorite. I know that's a pretty popular one. It's kind of eh. Replacements is good, though. No doubt. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get to work on this here T-shirt design. I might send a couple out there. And oh, this is interesting. It says, the Goot Liquor, serving premium draft picks since 2018. Oh, because of Gooticons, duh. And then it's got a tap. It's got 3, like, pull taps, you know? I could have it change what each one of those is. But it's got, like, presumably Gooticons on it. I should get, like, 3 different pictures of Gooticons. And then it says, home of the finest selections in the draft. Oh, I could put, I'll put Packers players on there. Put, like, Jair, Rashawn, and, I don't know, pick somebody else. That's a good one. I like that. I'll have to see if I can tweak that one and get some pictures on there. All right, I'm out of here. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.